Thanks for coming back. This is number 9 of 10 webinars. We just scheduled another one for the May 15th. Mark your calendar, 2 o'clock Eastern Time on May 15th. Dr. Leah Matthews from the Distance Education Accreditation Council, the distance folks, she's the executive director there, is going to do a presentation on state and federal regulatory requirements relative to distance learning. That's May 15th at 2 o'clock. We'll send out a full mailing on that later to the primary contacts from AMS. But so instead of 9 webinars, we're going to be doing 10, and that's number 10. We're counting some that we've done specially as well for the language schools, which we've done separately. So we've been keeping everybody busy, keeping ourselves busy and you busy here for the last, 6 weeks now. It's been a good run. Great, I'm happy to report that spring has finally arrived in Michigan, May 1st, and the fruit trees are finally in blossom. The flowers are out. This is the latest spring I remember, but for those of you who remember the world before global warming, spring used to start in the Midwest about May 1st, and lately it's been starting more closer to April 1st, a real spring this year. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to share the outline. We're going to start by walking through that. Rez is hosting for us again today. Rez, if you can confirm that that's what people are seeing, that would be fantastic.
Yep, we're good to go.
Excellent, great, excellent, thanks. Close up a couple of windows here so I can see what I'm doing and pull the chat back up. Great. Okay, well, here's what we have for today. We've got a full staff contingent here. Judy, Mary Claire, Courtney, Maya. I should have done this alphabetically so I didn't forget anybody. Rez, Christina, Scott, Donna. Oh, I'm sure I missed somebody again. Courtney, if I didn't say her name. Steve may be here. But anyway, the gang is all here helping in the background. Keep asking your questions along the line. Rez just reminded everybody that we're recording, and we did just repost the outline for today so everybody can grab that really quickly. It's a Word file, has some nifty screenshots and some narrative that you'll find useful. We're going to bounce around between 4 different documents as the session goes on. I expect we'll keep you busy for about an hour and 15 minutes, give or take, depending on the questions. And then hopefully everybody can get off and enjoy the weekend or get started on their application. Okay, we're on the outline for today now. Here are the handouts that you're going to leave here today with. You already have the outline for today. We're going to be going through the 3-point IDL, which is the streamlined version. The official 3-point IDL is on the ACCET website under Documents and Forms, as always. And a reminder that you're ultimately responsible for all of the field-specific criteria in Document 3-point IDL. Many of you are familiar with these overlay documents to the ACERs, the 3-point series of massage therapy, ESOL, associate degree programs, allied health, nursing. Did I say massage therapy already? I've forgotten, but there's several of them that have unique criteria, questions, prompts for the ACER included. 3-point IDL is the governing document for distance learning. That's on the website per usual. Today, we're going to present the streamlined version to you, which you're going to use for your first time IDL application. If you've already been approved for IDL, and you would know that, only you would know that, of course we know that as well. If you've already been approved for IDL, been teaching IDL prior to the COVID emergency, you will not have to do a 3-point IDL again for this particular application. Those questions are always built into your ACER during reaccreditation. The one we're going to present to you today has been annotated with some staff prompts. We'll show you that in a bit. We also have a full PDF of the actual AMS application, which has been annotated, showing you exactly which pieces you need to complete and which ones you can skip, including exhibits. So that's what our focus is going to be for today. Talk about some of the mechanics first, how we're going to process these, what happens next, and please just keep shooting the questions into the chat board. Our team of panelists, guest celebrity presenters are going to help answer questions for you. You can indeed start processing or start working on your applications immediately. This went live this morning in AMS. It's been tested, seems to be working okay. With new software, there's always a bug. I'm sure we'll find it at an inconvenient time, but for now, everything looks like it's on track. The streamlined applications that we're working on today with the reduced pricing may be used through June 1st. So that's a pretty important date. There's going to be a bit of a rush. Get them in as quickly as you can, complete of course, because we want to get these turned around for you as rapidly as we can. We expect a good load of these. We're not sure how fast we're going to process. Judy's tasked all of us to work on these together. So we'll be attacking these as soon as they start coming in as a group and try to turn them around for you as quickly as we can. It's a reminder as well, to bullet 3, that this IDL, the Streamlined IDL application, can only be used for currently approved on-the-ground programs. So if you were planning to, say, start a flight school today or tomorrow or next week, an online flight school, I guess that might not work so well. But if you're planning to get into some new line of educational business, this is actually not the vehicle for doing that. You already have to have the program approved in AMS, and you're adding an IDL iteration where you're going to convert it, okay? And as I mentioned earlier, the Streamlined IDL application does not relieve you of meeting all the field-specific criteria of document 3.IDL. We're going to repeat that several times as the day goes on, and that full document, again, is in Documents and Forms. Okay, questions? I think we're doing okay, so we'll keep pushing along here. Here's some regulatory reminders that Judy pulled together for us. These are long-standing regulatory requirements. There's really nothing new here, but just a refresher. If you're new to IDL, you might not be familiar with some of these things. We've covered some of this as part of our webinar series to date. Just like everything else, you've got to have state approval as a licensed. Now, we have some avocational schools in here where this might not apply, but for vocational schools that are licensed in your state, if you need, unless you're licensure by means of accreditation, in which case ACCET kind of rules in that case, for example, in California. Otherwise, you have to get approval for these kinds of changes. If your state does not require specific IDL approval, then you can come up with a letter of exemption, evidence that you're exempt. You're going to need that for us to be able to grant interim approval. We will be able to begin processing your application without that, but we won't be able to give you interim approval to actually begin offering it or to begin enrolling new students in it. State authorization, many of you are familiar with that. It came aboard during the Obama administration. It's still kind of floating out there in different shapes and forms and sizes, different interpretations. But remember, the home state where you're licensed that authorizes you to recruit students doesn't automatically give you the right to enroll students from other states. So this is true particularly for online learning. Not all states care, many do. It's up to you to do the due diligence. If you're recruiting from outside of your state where you're licensed, you have to do your due diligence and check what those requirements would be. ACCET can't tell you one way or the other whether it's okay. Some attorneys generals have been particularly aggressive in dealing with online institutions recruiting in their state. Others not so worried about it. For Title IV purposes, of course, this is a bigger deal, and you can check with your federal financial aid officer or with your servicer if you have questions about this. Bullet 3 is also not new. You've been required for some time with ACCET to provide and publish licensure certification information in your catalog as to whether your program meets those requirements. And of course, that is also true. Again, if this is your first time with distance learning, this shouldn't change anything there, but just kind of a nudge, check your catalog, be sure that's been disclosed. Excuse me. A tickle in my throat. It's Friday. It's been a busy week for you as it has been for us, I'm sure. Okay, specifically to federal requirements and ACCET for IDL programs, interactive distance learning must include regular and substantive interaction. That is required by the Department of Education. They've not been pleased when they come into schools and program reviews or otherwise where they don't find that. ACCET requirements for distance learning should put you in good stead with the department. ACCET, since the mid-90s when this document was created, has required this substantive and regular interaction. And that means it's structured into your curriculum. We talked about that a good bit last week. That includes students to instructor, students to students, and students and instructional materials. The fact that your program might be delivered partially synchronously does not relieve you of this requirement. You have to be sure that students are not sleeping, whether they're live online or live in a classroom or in an asynchronous environment, okay? So be sure that those are built in to the curriculum, into the instructor lesson plans. Everybody knows what that means. And again, a restatement that you have to meet all the requirements of 3-point IDL. Did I miss any questions there that I'm answering? Somebody let me know. It looks like folks have been jumping in. And Ron, we're going to get to your question here very quickly, okay? Donna, thanks for jumping in those answers. Let's talk about the mechanics. We're going to cover Donna or Jones and Ron's question here very quickly. Okay. Through June 1st, between now and June 1st, the IDL new program application fees have been reduced by 50%. So again, these are already approved programs. That's one reason they're discounted, and it's a streamlined application. Through June 1st, that's as far as the flexibilities are extended right now by the Department of Education to ACCET as accrediting body. If you're a first time, this is the first time you're applying for IDL approval, it's a new program, IDL, that program application fee has been reduced from $2,000 to $1,050. After the institution has received at minimum an interim approval for their first IDL program, then you can add additional ones. So if you already have IDL approved and you're looking to add additional programs via IDL delivery, ordinarily there's restrictions on this, but right now through June 1st, you can add those additional programs for $550 each. You'll be either providing that as a program change or as a new program, either one, and we'll show you how to do that. If this is your first time, then you're going to have to hold back, start preparing your other applications on paper, and then push them in after you get your interim approval for the first one. So getting that first one in, your pick which one you want to go first. Once you get approval for that interim approval, then you'll be able to apply for the other programs at the discounted rate. And we'll do that as quickly as possible, as Don is mentioning in the chat. And those carry the fee of $550 versus the $1,050. Okay, so it's that sequence. If you're already approved for IDL, you go right to the $550 additional program per program. If this is your first time, you're going to spend $1,050 on the first application and then $550 for additional programs, subsequent to interim approval being granted.
John?
No one is asked. Oh, go ahead, Donna, jump in.
I think that I can text a response to this, but it might be good for us to discuss it. To clarify what can be offered through IDL now before June 1, the June 1 date is for new programs or new students, enrolling new students. Yeah,
yep.
but their current students enrolled in the temporary IDL are okay up until June 1st. It's for new students after June 1st.
Yes, and of course you can continue for some limited period of time. That's a little bit fuzzy. It depends on your payment period, okay? The department in its earlier guidance said which payment periods these flexibilities apply to. So once that payment period ends, you're also going to have approval before bringing new students in. But either way, what you want to do, if you're planning to continue this past June 1st for new students, you're going to want to get this application in, okay? David, your question is a really good one. I can't answer it specifically, but we're going to process these as quickly as we can. I don't know what's going to happen specifically if you have your application in and that's pending interim approval before you add the other programs. We definitely have to do them in sequence. Once you get the interim approval for the other one, we'll process as quickly as we can. There might be a bit of a gap. We're going to go as fast as we can. Again, all of us are going to be on this. Okay, but for now, being conservative, the answer is you're going to have to wait, all right? The answer is you're going to have to wait for approval. Again, you can start on these today if you want to. And as we go through this, you're going to see it's not terribly much work. I mean, there's paper, of course, but you've already done a lot of the work. If you've been participating in these webinars, we've tipped you off to the bulk of these things already, and we've chopped as much as we could out of the application, again, to make this as straightforward as possible. Sure, David, happy to help. Again, questions are going to keep coming up in the coming couple of weeks, so keep in touch with us, and we'll keep updating our blog about weekly and get announcements out to everybody as if and when things change. Okay, I think we've covered these next couple of bullets. I want to be sure that everybody's clear on this. I want to talk about this right now. This is for institutions that are already approved for IDL, or once you've been granted your interim approval for your first IDL program. At that point, you get two choices. I'm going to skip down to this for a second. Where is my note on this one? Where did it go? Okay, here we go. So once you have at least one approved, now you can add the others. And you have a choice here. You can add it as another new program. And the reason you'd want to do that is if you plan to continue offering the on-the-ground program fully on ground. So let's say you have a program, let's call it business administration, and you've decided, hey, this online thing is really working for us. Going forward, I'm going to just have this business administration program either be fully online or hybrid. In that case, you're going to provide a program change application. It's a good bit simpler. And this will actually change the listing in AMS from the regular listing to IDL. You'll have one listing for that one program, which is only offered in either hybrid or IDL. Hybrid course blended means some of it's on ground, some of it's online. Either way, it's IDL to us, okay? If you, though, plan to keep teach two iterations of the program, one in some fashion online, all or part, and the other one fully on ground, you're going to want both program types listed in AMS. Again, this doesn't affect your charge at all. In that case, you're going to enter it as a new program, and I'm going to show you where to do that. The price is the same, $550 for the second and additional programs during this time, all right? You know, David, going back to your question for a second, I may have misunderstood it. We're definitely not going to charge you more than $550 for these additional programs after June 1st if you've got that first one in process. As long as you've got it going, it's part of this flow. We're not going to hit you for $1,000. We're going to be moving this as quickly as we can, but you can count on that. Even if it's a couple of weeks, we'll apply that. Yeah, thanks. I just realized that I may have left everybody thinking you guys are going to go slow and charge me all this money. No, we're not going to do that. All right, good. Got that off my chest, and I feel better about myself right now. So we got those choices. Let's back up a bit and let's look at some of these screenshots. You know where this is. AMS added a program module about a year ago. So if you haven't tinkered, changed, or added a new program in that time, you might not be familiar with this, but it's accessed in the same place where you get your annual reporting and annual completion and placement stuff. Right here from your dashboard, under available documents and forms, you're going to choose application for new program. Again, if this is your first time, or you're going to add the program as a separate listing as we discussed. When that opens up, you're going to give it a name. As a new program, AMS doesn't know what program that is. It's an existing program. Under the Streamlined, it must be an existing program. So you're going to add that name right here exactly as it appears now, exactly as it's been approved in AMS. This is not the time to be creative. Find some other outlet for your creativity. This is not the spot. At the end of it, though, you're going to add a clarifier. Just put a parens IDL. It'll save us a step from adding it for you. That way we know. It'll be appear in AMS, Business Administration, parens IDL. That way we know, you know. You do not need to use that IDL in marketing. Of course, you have to let people know it's IDL or available that way. But as a program name, you know how fussy we are in catalog listings, website listings, etc. You don't have to include that every time. But for this purpose, it's going to have the IDL clarifier. You're going to check the program type. For many of you, it's vocational. You might be doing some avocational programs as well. Choose the one that's appropriate. And you are not between now and June 1st going to choose the usual interactive distance learning option. Instead, you're going to click this one right here, First IDL COVID. We added a special category to memorialize this event. First IDL COVID, that's what you're going to use. That's what gets you the discount. Otherwise, and the abbreviated application. That's what gets you into that, all right? If you're coming back for a second program that you want to be treated as an IDL program and keep your online, then this is the one you'll choose after you've already been approved. Clear enough? Again, from the drop-down, choose application for new program, name, voc avoc, first IDL, or the IDL iteration, depending where you are in the process. Everything is submitted in AMS. We don't take paper copies or PDFs. PDFs, of course, can be uploaded as exhibits in AMS, but please don't email us anything. All right, all goes through AMS. We covered this already. And again, if you've already have an approval or your interim approval, then you can go and use this option right here. If you attempt to use this option before your first approval, you're going to get charged full fare. So there's no shortcut to this. If you are applying for a program change, this is where you're actually converting a currently approved program into IDL. One program survives. It'll have business administration IDL, means it's blended or fully online. You're going to choose the application for program change, a much shorter application. That's a benefit. Same cost, $550 till June 1st. And then in this drop down, you're going to choose delivery format change COVID. You can see the scroll bar down there. This is a screenshot, so I can't move that, but it's at the bottom of the list. In a program change application, AMS knows which program it is that you're working on, and it's going to pre-fill this for you. I blurred this out because I stole this from a school application, but you'll choose from the drop-down one of your currently approved programs that you're converting, and it will populate for you with the bulk of the information. And I'll show you that here in a few minutes when we get to it. Okay, clear so far? Any questions so far on the basic mechanics of how to access the application? Okay. The detailed applications we're going to go through in a minute have annotations for you showing exactly what to complete and what is not required in this phase. So we'll go from there. Before we move over to the 3-point IDL document itself, I want to go over a couple of the processes within the application. You may be familiar with this from submitting either initial applications or reaccredit applications where it's common for staff to revert an application to you. This is also common for new programs. If something's missing or something's out of date, or we just need more information, like everything else, don't take it personally. It's not a weakness. It will not be held against you. You don't have to feel bad about it. It's just normal. If it's reverted to you, you'll get a notification in AMS. You may also get an email from one of the staff indicating what the reason is. You'll simply do the update, add the missing information, fix what needs to be fixed, whatever that is, and resubmit it. There is no charge for resubmitting a reverted application. You don't need to worry about that, okay? No additional charge. We have had occasional bugs where AMS goes, I feel like charging them anyway. If that happens, please stop. That's a mistake, it's a bug. Again, this is not a full beta test, there's been no time. Should you be charged again when you're attempting to resubmit, don't pay anything, don't give us your credit card, email Caitlin or myself, there's our links to our email addresses right there. We'll figure it out for you, okay? So promise me you will not pay again for resubmitting. Yolanda's asking a good question. Using the change form does not end the residential version. Using the program change form will change it to IDL, Yolanda. That's the key thing. So in your case, you're going to enter it as a new program, a new IDL iteration of an existing program. That will keep your residential and add the new one as IDL. Okay, thanks, Donna. Yolanda, did that answer your question? Hopefully so. Again, it's a little bit confusing, and we'll kind of roll back to that and recap it as time goes on. Your choice which you do, but a program change is going to change the name in AMS, and we'll expect at that point that that's only being offered in some version of IDL. The other thing I'd like to talk about quickly before we move on is the actual process, and I'm going to ask Donna to take the mic here for a second, talk about what happens following interim approval. Donna, want to grab it?
Sure, I'll grab it. All right, once you get interim approval, as you will know, you get a letter. And in that letter, we're going to probably combine our processes. Normally, you get the letter and then you get a letter regarding the visit. but the team is going to be working on Monday on this process. But I expect that you will get a letter and that we will tell you, if we know when we can do the visit already, we'll put it in there. And if not, we'll tell you that additional information will follow. But you will be advised that the team will look at your full 3 IDL template, not just the questions that we're asking you to fill out for this application, but the full 3 IDL. And any other information that we may need. If you're going to be going through reaccreditation, those questions will be built into your ACER. But the team will use the 3 IDL template to perform its visit and verify the information, and you will get a team report and can respond to the team report, and the accrediting commission will make final decision on final approval. During interim approval, but you have full ability to offer online during that time frame. Does that help, John?
Yes, very much, Donna.
Okay.
And some of these visits, the on-site visits, those will be, they may be done virtually, and we are discounting that virtual visit if we're able to do that. At some point, we have to show up at your doorstep, either part of a reaccreditation or possibly a quality assurance visit, or depending on the timing, we may have to show up. But either way, that is being discounted if we're able to do part of it via virtual, and more will follow about that later. We expect to be piloting some virtual visits here this summer, and we're going to, as long as this emergency lasts, we're going to be using that as one of the tools. Again, I can't tell you which and how many, but we'll do it when it's reasonable to do so. I've switched over now to the 3-point IDL streamlined template. This is not in AMS itself. This is a handout that Rez has probably posted for you by now. Checking my chat went out of view. There it is. He sure did right then. Well done, Rez. This handout is not in Documents and Forms. It will be posted in Judy's blog later in the day. In fact, it may be there already, but it's going to be in Judy's blog on the website, on the ACCET homepage. So grab it from here or grab it from there, and hang on to it because you're going to find it very useful. This is the IDL template, which has been streamlined via crossouts, very, very artistic of us. And we've added some annotations. In this document, we've added some notes from staff that are not necessarily required. They're just tips, things that you've heard about in the last few weeks during the webinars. They're just prompts to help you think about some other ways to answer the question. Now, the version you're going to be using, which Rez maybe have also posted, if not, he'll do it probably in a minute, and that's the one without the annotations. It's still been marked up for the streamlined version. It simply doesn't have the staff annotations. Either way, it's fillable, and you can type right into it as a Word file. You will attach this to the AMS application when it asks for the 3-point IDL. And when we get to the application itself, I'll show you where that goes. Clear, this is the annotated version. For workshop use, you'll use the one that's not annotated, fill it in, and attach it to the AMS application. Green means ACCET staff put that for your benefit. It doesn't mean that what we said is necessarily a requirement. Here's an example. Standard 1A, this is part of 3-point IDL, asking for the rationale for the selection of the particular IDL methodology. For example, IDL could be synchronous, it could be asynchronous, it could be hybrid, blended, some other combination of things. So why did you choose what you did, and how does it serve your target population? That's the question you need to answer. Here are some tips from staff as to how you might be considering these, what you might think about as you're answering the question. Again, these are just prompts for your edification. You can ignore them if you wish. Answer the question the best you can based on why you're doing this. All right? You'll see that planning, we are not asking for planning documents as part of the streamlined application, but you are required to build IDL issues, technology, training, et cetera, into your budgets and into your planning, and that's what this standard is about. Again, you'll be required to do this as part of your on-site visit and your preparations for that on-site visit. You'll have to have these ready. You can start working at them maybe after June 1st when you have a little bit more time, but be sure you have them available and ready to go. Crossouts means you can ignore for now, but not forever. Same with governance. You can see we've crossed that one out. No questions to answer there. Institutional management is a good example of a standard where there's a mix. Here we've eliminated a question that we don't think is important right now. You can deal with that later. But for now, you have to answer this question about how operational management facilitates relationships between staff and tech support and student services. And again, with some staff ideas for how you might go about doing that. Okay, clear, Isabel? Any questions on that? Well, that's going, there's a couple points where I want to make I have some comments on. Staff, if you want to jump in on any of these to make any comments, any thoughts on professional relationships? When it comes to Standard 3B, financial procedures, refund policies come under Standard 3B. In IDL, it comes later under admissions, but you know that you have to have in policy how you track last day of attendance for refunds. We talk about that in the accreditation workshop under document 31. So you're probably familiar with that already. Been to a workshop lately, but monitoring student attendance is part of this, especially for last day of attendance and when the student has had too many consecutive absences. How is that defined? How you handle initial and exit counseling for Title IV schools. These things come under Standard 3B. We warned you a couple weeks ago that the 3-point IDL items that will survive pretty much intact, standards 4, 5, and 6, the heavy curriculum and faculty standards, and they have. We've eliminated a few things, but the bulk of these you will have to answer in the normal course. Again, these are things that we've talked about heavily the last couple weeks, particularly last Friday and Monday. Scroll through this again. Get an idea of this. I had a couple comments later on. Let me see if I can find those. Standard 3, sorry, which one is this? This is 5A. This is a huge one for distance learning, so you're going to want to spend a lot of time on this standard. And here, this is the language that we've talked about for structured interaction. Again, you can't leave this to accident. An FAQ, for example, is not by definition an interactive student-to-student interaction or student-to-faculty. A student happy hour is not student-to-student interaction. It's got to be structured. That means faculty moderated, faculty facilitated. It does not happen by accident. Scrolling down again, I'm not seeing anything in the chat board. Looks like we're doing okay. We're not going to ask you to spend much time on equipment and infrastructure for this. Again, you'll have some descriptions of that ready in your mini ACER you do for the on-site visit. So you can skip the ones that are crossed out. You'll see that emphasis over and over again on student and faculty orientation and training. That comes up over and over again in the 3-point IDL.
John, we have a question. I don't feel comfortable. Is there any rule of thumb for student to faculty interaction, how frequently it must occur?
You know, that's educational best practice. This is where accreditation is particularly strong and fuzzy. That's in the eye of the beholder, right? Teams can kind of make that call. If it's rare, it's not going to be good enough. Regular is the way the department defines it. So regular, in my experience, often means at least weekly, particularly for the student to faculty. I would say if it's less than weekly, you're probably going to get a weakness for it. Anybody else? Again, if you're from a school that's been offering IDL for a while, any thoughts on that? It certainly doesn't mean you have to have a discussion or a live thing every day. You have to have anything live at all. It can be all completely asynchronous. It doesn't mean that every day everything has to happen, but within a course of a unit, you go to, and I'll be sure it's structured in. Linda, have I been sufficiently vague for you? I got a smiley face. I guess it's better than a thumbs down. But if anybody else has comments about that, feel free to put them in if you have suggestions. We covered a good chunk of this last Monday. Well, we touched on it a little bit last Monday, but there's no specific ratio or number of hours that it has to meet. Okay? But plenty of it. How's that? Synchronous and asynchronous, Carolyn, yeah, you'll want to say that because if you're heavily synchronous or you have some combination of synchronous, it really helps the content reviewer understand what you're doing, and particularly for the site team, they know what to expect. Synchronous, of course, we have one thing in mind. It means like what we're doing right now is synchronous. Asynchronous means not in real time, so typically students are submitting something on a deadline, but they're not doing it in real time with you. And some programs have both. I believe last week, My Computer Career that presented on the guest with Maya's group, I did a lot of synchronous training. And other groups like Intercoast College does none. They do a lot of synchronous counseling, but I think their actual education is all asynchronous. Carolyn, does that help? Look for a smiley face or a thumbs down. Yes, thank you, that works too. Great, thank you guys. Good questions, keep them coming. Our panel of experts is standing by waiting for you to call. Okay. This question's a little bit tricky. Describe the education experience of instructional supervisors. We skipped course designer. We know you haven't hired course designers just for this occasion. Many of you are using off-the-shelf materials. The publishers often have some very good materials. We talked about that last Monday as well. You've got some experience now. Many of you have been running distance learning here for the last several weeks. You're learning quickly. You know, what have you learned from that? You've got some experience. So you can describe what you have there and what you're planning to do to keep improving their skill set. Q's saying she doesn't see the green comments. Is the green highlight showing up on the screens? Again, Q, you might, the fillable form that's not annotated has no green, only the annotated one has the green.
I do see the green, so I don't know if everybody else.
Visible. Q, you might be looking at the handout that's the fillable one for your purposes. This one is for the workshop purposes. Good, thanks everybody for confirming that. I thought maybe I was going colorblind, but there it is, okay. More instruction, orientation and training, more and more orientation, yada, yada, yada. You've seen this over and over and over again. Communication, as we've talked about the last few weeks, is just so important when your students are remote. You can't hardly communicate with them enough.
John, this is Mary Claire.
Jump in, Mary Claire.
Linda had a question. She said, one more rule of thumb question. Any best practice on frequency of due dates for measurable assignments? Is having everything due weekly too long?
I've got my opinions on that. Who would like to jump in with that? Anybody?
I would. I'll take
well, as a matter of fact, we've got somebody. Mary Claire, you're up. Thanks. Go ahead.
I think that if you have everything due just once a week, that is a long time for having deliverables from your students. I would suggest having, you know, one or two things that maybe are shorter, just so that they're doing something and engaging with the content and with each other. At least a few things that are shorter than having everything due at the end of the week. So that's my personal opinion from working in distance learning.
I'm gonna second and third that. You want stuff happening quickly and virtually every day. Now, again, that's not a requirement. It depends on your audience. If you're doing online professional training, these are not typically entry-level folks. Once a week may be plenty. When we look at a lot of our schools that are doing entry-level training, I would think that you're going to want to have a lot of interaction, and you want to have this often. You want to know very quickly when students are falling off. And if you wait a couple days, they may have fallen off too far. So lots of checks, and a check means a check-in is a quiz, it's a quick piece of homework, it's a discussion, it's something that's happening a whole lot, okay? So again, we're not gonna devote too much time to that today, but I think it's a very pertinent question as we go through this. Again, feel free to keep jumping those in. We talked a little bit last, a week ago Friday, actually, Maya's group and panel talked quite a bit about week one, you know, what happens before class begins. That was heavily focused on admission. We spent quite a bit of time on that last Friday. So pull those notes out. It's an area of concern. Are you bringing in the correct students, students who are capable of handling this, students who can, who are disciplined, or you can help them become disciplined? And maybe you do some stuff live early on, then they become online later. There's lots and lots of strategies for this, depending on your students. So think about that. You're gonna have to play around a little bit, experiment. You're really worried about student retention here. We talked about electronic signatures last week and all that. We're not gonna rehash that today. There's some good staff comments under student services. I think these are helpful. So take a look at those notes in the green queue. Hopefully you can see the green queue. Some really good ideas there, as well as what kind of challenges for students who are struggling. On last Monday, earlier this week, boy, it seems like weeks ago, it was just Monday, we talked quite a bit about Standard 8. Take a look at that and incorporate those ideas into this. How do you know students are keeping up? How do you know when they're falling behind? What you have to do to help them catch up, your makeup policies, what you do when, how you penalize for late or credit for early, whatever you do, whatever your tricks are, here's a time to build it into Standard 8. Danny has a question. Danny's got a really good question, and then Joan has one as well. You can change admission requirements for IDL. You can. Sometimes it might be stricter. You might require a higher passing rate on a Wonderlic, for example, or you might require that they take some kind of a test or maybe a quick prerequisite course. Sometimes the orientation is used as a kind of a filter for students that are going to keep up with everybody. So yeah, definitely want to do that. I think that's fine. Can you deny them? If they don't have the technology, they don't have what it takes, Danny, I think denying them is better than them having flunk out. Yeah, so I think you can do that. Yeah, be sure it's documented in your admissions requirements in your catalog. And you can have differences in the catalog for different admissions requirements for online students. Okay. Liz, is the video posted from last Friday? I believe it is. Does anybody know that for sure? I did not check personally. Christina or Judy, maybe you're aware of that. If you do, punch it in. If not, we'll find out as the session goes on. Okay. Thanks, Liz. Don't let us forget. If we haven't answered this question by 5 o'clock or 5:15, ask again, all right? Don't let me forget. Let's see what else jumps out at us here that we could talk about. We talked about student feedback, how often they get it, intentional weighting. We talked quite a bit on Monday about rubrics, really important. Rubrics aren't stated as a requirement in 3-point IDL, but they are an expectation. That's just an educational best practice. Okay, if you don't have rubrics, instructors are all doing their own thing. That's going to be a problem for you. Okay, so you want to have a lot of oversight of this program. Let's talk about Standard 9 quickly. Right for now, you're not going to have to provide student surveys because you're just getting started, nor employer surveys. You will have to have that later. And completion and placement, a reminder, we're not asking for this data now, but you recall the workshop from accreditation or webinar on CNP that IDL programs are reported on a separate 28.1. Okay, so you always report, it's a different iteration of a program that does require a separate 28.1 reporting. You can't combine your online students with your on-the-ground students for 28.1. It's a separate submission. Okay. That's it for the 3-point IDL walkthrough. It was quick and simple. This is an attachment to the AMS application. Are there any questions about this before I close it up and go back to the outline? Anybody? I can see the link for the YouTube is being posted there. Christina's got it, and it's on the home page in Judy's blog. I'm going to stop the share for a moment and then go back to the outline briefly to be sure I'm on track. And let's see where we are. We've talked about the Streamlined IDL. You have that handout. In fact, you'll have two handouts. One is the actual form that you'll use that's been crossed out for the things you don't need to answer, and the one we just looked over with the green, which is the annotated version of it. They have the same information. Use this one for your submission. Okay, so now we're assuming this is your first time new program for IDL, and we're going to walk through what that looks like. Let's switch over to that. And let me find it. There it is. Okay, you should see the new program application up on my screen. This is an actual printout, and Rez just uploaded it. This is annotated for you. Again, keep this handy because this tells you what you have to answer, what you don't have to answer. You won't find this in documents and forms anywhere. This is a workshop handout being posted for you as well in Judy's blog. So this new program is called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? This program is already an approved on-the-ground program for this school. They already have this program approved as an avocational program, and they're adding the IDL to it in the name as a clarifier. Parens, hyphen, either one is fine. We're not fussy about that. Just get it in there. And this handout, I apologize. I took this screenshot before we were live in AMS. The other screenshots had this in the outline. You'll see it. But your options to, oops, wrong arrow there. Let me find it. Right about here is where the COVID options exist, either the first time or the new iteration. You're going to check the COVID option, not this one. Okay. If you check this one, you're going to get charged full fare. If you check the COVID one, you'll get the discount. That's an incentive, isn't it, to get this one right? You're going to have to enter the CIP code. Again, the same as in your ground-based version, so just copy that over. You don't have to go look it up again. You do not need to put date of last graduating class. You probably haven't had one yet. That would be quick. You will need to enter the delivery method. It's going to be IDL or hybrid or blended, whatever terminology you want to call it. You will leave this one blank. This is an older question based on the total IDL offerings is a total of all your program offerings. We don't need that information anymore. You can leave that blank and it's not a required field. However, this one, % IDL program length, you will need to fill in. If this program is going to be fully 100% IDL, put 100% in there. If it's a hybrid, enter what you're thinking of doing. Of course, right now, you're not doing anything but 100%, but to put this in as post-COVID, all right? How much of it's going to be full online post-COVID? 50-50, 75-25, whatever that is. Again, that is not a deal killer either way. We just want to know what your plans are. And that can change later. You don't have to come to us every time you've changed a percentage. You do not have to come to us, okay? If you move from hybrid to fully online, we'd like to know about that. If we go from fully online to hybrid, we'd like to know about that for our records. And Donna is the one to go to if you have a question about that. Am I missing any questions I need to get to right now? Are you guys good? Looks like everybody's got a handle on this. A percentage of hybrid is not program hours or program credits, Angela. It's really, well, it might be. I guess it might be. But think in terms of overall number of courses. Some courses might be fully online and some might be fully in ground. That's typically called a blended program. I'm sorry, a hybrid program. Blended program is often used as a term for a program which is a mix and mash all the way through. Some online, some on the ground for every course. Either way, you decide what that is. We are not going to slice and dice that. That help you, Angela? Good, excellent. Good question. This one, the field about managing organization, this is just so we know who's in charge of this. That is typically the main campus. And you'll see that in the drop down. In some cases, we've got a corporate site or a branch campus that is handling that. And if it's a branch campus, you can put that. We just want to know where we'll go for an on-site visit to see the operation. Okay. For program hours, for vocational and avocational programs, it's always enrollment by program, and there's always a clock hours associated with it. Do not check hours vary or per week. There are some of you in the audience today, you're not exactly an audience, some of you who are here in the webinar today that might have a bucket of avocational programs. If you do, you know who you are. In that case, hours vary might be the correct answer. If it's hours vary now in AMS, then it can be hours vary here. Otherwise, it's clock hour. Enter whether it's quarter or semester, exactly the same thing you're doing now. In your currently approved version of the program, you're going to put the same information. This program is going to be identical in clock and credit hours if you're using credit hours. If you're using alternate credit hours, that would also be identical. Okay, at the end of the day, these applications are virtually identical. Full and part-time, you can leave that whole section blank. It's not a required field. Here's where you're going to put your state approval. Again, this has to be approved by your state unless you've been exempted from doing it. If you have IDL already, your state may have approved it for the school or may have approved it by program. Check and see how that's approved. If it's going to take some time to get the state to approve it, get that information to the state right away. Provide documentation that it's in process. We cannot at this time give you interim approval until we have some evidence from the state that this is okay. But we can begin processing it for you and we'll revert it for you for the state information. Okay, so we don't want to hold you up in processing, but you're going to want to get on that right away. If your state says we don't care, then tell us, provide us evidence that they don't care. For Carolyn and California, I believe that, that having ACCET's approval is going to be enough. And I believe that Donna and Judy can answer that for you, Carolyn.
California is licensed by means of accreditation. So if you have a current license and you do have approval to be licensed by means of accreditation, you would provide that as evidence.
Good. Excellent, Donna. Thanks so much. Anybody in another state where that is true? If you do, pop it in there.
Might be true in Texas, might be true in Texas. And I'm not sure about Florida. They have some of that in place as well.
Good. Let us know. Again, if you have a question, drop a note to Donna and she can help with that. Okay. Locations where the program is offered. Now this is important. If you have a fully online program and it's emanating out of your main campus or one of your branches, that's the location you'll choose from the drop-down. Don't assign it to all of your branches if it's fully IDL, because that what will happen is when we assemble teams for on-site visits, we're going to send an IDL specialist to each of those locations. If it's hybrid, of course, and everybody's in hybrid at all the campuses, then we are going to look at that. But if it's only online and it's coming out of a corporate or main campus, just attach it to that one campus, all right? Otherwise, again, we may be charging you for team sizes that you don't need. That can be fixed easily enough later. It's just a checkbox in AMS that we can fix if you change your mind later on it. But be attuned to that at this point in time. We will want a program start date. Again, doesn't have to be exact, but when you expect that it's actually happening. If you're already operating this under COVID, enter the date that you actually started doing it. So for many of you, this was in March. Enter that date right in here. And there's a drop-down calendar that you choose from. Okay. So I don't know if the noise of my grandchildren is seeping through to the microphone. If it is, we're taking care of some like a lot of you are. So sorry for that. Edward's question is a good one. You've got temporary approval, but if you're planning to go permanently online, you're going to have to go back to New York and say, we're going to need this longer term, Edward. Okay. Same in Illinois. Yep, Donna, thank you. Looks like I got that one right. Yep, and I know some of these states can be slow, so get right on it, okay? Don't wait, make that your first thing. Next, you're going to be asked to enter the rationale for the new program. Again, this is a sample entry just for you to look at. You enter a similar narrative. Doesn't have to be a great deal of detail, why you're doing it. I want to explain this no supporting documents right here. This is an AMS placeholder. It doesn't mean whether you have to or you don't have to have supporting documents. It just means that there's nothing attached to that particular question. All right, when you add something and upload it, that will go away. Again, so this doesn't mean you needed it. It doesn't mean you didn't need it. It just means AMS doesn't see anything attached. Okay, I didn't repeat this annotation throughout, but wherever you see this, that's, oops, wherever you see this, that's what it means. That's page 1 of the application. At this point, you'll be prompted to save and proceed. Save often. You don't have to do this in one sitting. You can always save these documents and go back to them. They'll be on your desktop in AMS, on your dashboard. Now we get to the supporting documentation. And you'll see something familiar right here. Asset document 3.1. We know what that is, right? This is the streamlined application through June 1st. Not the annotated with the green. Q, not the one with the green, now that we found it. This is the one without the green. You're going to fill that in and attach it. And any other exhibits that go with it, you'll put right in. This is required.
And you said 3.1, it's 3-point IDL, just for
Yes.
clarification.
Thank you, Don. It's Friday afternoon here. Happy hour is coming. That's the good news. And anybody else that catches me saying the wrong thing, please correct me. I'm not offended. Okay, great. Instructional materials we're not asking you for. We know what those are. You're probably using the similar materials you are using right now and on ground. If there's anything additional, we'll catch that later. As part of your mini ACER in preparation for this team visit, you'll answer that and provide it there. We don't need document 6s right now. You'll have them ready for the team. Employer questionnaires. We don't need all this program information. We do need document 25.5. That's on the ACCET website. But we don't need this for all courses in the program. There might be 7, 8, 9, 10 courses in your program of study, maybe more, maybe fewer. We don't need all of them in the 25.5. We want a sampling of 3 courses from the program entered into 25.5 and uploaded as an attachment.
And please choose courses that are going to be offered via distance learning. If you have courses that are going to be on ground or face-to-face, don't include those, but pick the ones that you're going to be integrating IDL.
Excellent. If you're doing 100% IDL, you can pick any 3 you want. If you're doing a hybrid of some sort, pick the 3 that are done online. That's a really good tip, Donna. I didn't think of that one, but that is why you're here. Okay, next, you're gonna have to choose a clock credit hour breakdown. If you're clock hour only, you're gonna use document 25.6a. If you are credit hour, you're gonna use 25.6b. And this is required. Document 25.7 is also required relative to admission standards. You'll have to put that one in. Catalog addendum, it's required, but this is an addendum, okay? It could be kind of a draft thing, okay? Don't send us the whole catalog. If you have to send us the whole catalog PDF, be really precise. See page X, check it, all right? That would be really helpful. If you send us a catalog, we're just not gonna have time to go on a wild goose chase for that. Okay, so if you could just send us the addendum or specific page references, we'll be happy to do it that way. The document 25 relative to externships is only important if you have an externship. Again, if you do have an externship, then it is required. Even if you're not doing it right now because of COVID, you still have to do this because this is, again, is designed to carry you into a post-COVID period. And you see, there's the $1,000.50, the deal of the month, our blue light special. Okay, any questions about the new program application? This is an exhibit. Rez has uploaded it. If we're good, I'm going to go back to the top here and I'm going to switch over to the new program application, the program change application. If you choose the COVID option, let me skip over to that screen so I can show you better here. Go back to the outline briefly. I've got a better screenshot. Where is that screenshot? Courtney, help me fix it. Here we go. This is the actual screenshot from the new AMS. If you are already approved for IDL, or once you've received interim approval for IDL, you're going to check this box right there. If you choose it before you've received interim approval, you're going to get charged full fare. $2,000, you don't want that. You want to be charged $550, okay? So that's why you're going to check that button. This is for the second time around. This is for a program iteration, which will preserve the current on-ground listing in AMS. You can continue enrolling students in the on-ground version, and you're adding the IDL iteration for students that want to enroll in that one. Whether it's hybrid or IDL, any part of it's IDL, it's IDL. Either one, these applications are the same, but this is the one to use because it gets you the $550 as opposed to full fare, okay? Good. Let me go now to the new program, the program change application. Again, this is where you find it. Program change. You're going to choose the delivery format change. This is going to change the program from on-ground to IDL, again, hybrid or fully online. This is going to change it, okay? It won't preserve the on-ground version. It's a simpler application, but again, choose what's best for the program. It's not going to cost you any money, any different amount. Let me stop sharing this and go over to the program change application. This is a quick one. program change application. We're going to use Who Wants to Be a Millionaire again this time. And this time we're going to give up the on-ground version of this, and we're going to just morph this into an IDL delivery. Hybrid, fully IDL. We can call it IDL, we can call it blended, we can call it hybrid. Whatever term you think is going to be best as a clarifier, we'll know what it means. In a program change application, AMS knows what program we're dealing with. It's going to pre-populate all this for you. The zip code comes across. Again, you can leave the graduating class blank. It's going to pre-populate the clock and credit hours. Again, don't change this because we're not changing it. This is only a program delivery change. It does not change your clock or credit hours. If you're going to do that, that's a different piece. Check with Donna before doing that. We don't need to know full or part-time. We don't need that. You're going to provide the state approval or the exemption, just like always. And you're going to indicate where it's being offered, all or some, for the same reasons talked about before, discussed earlier. We do want the projected start date, same deal. If it's running now, you can use the actual date you started with online or the projected start date. We want to know this so we can schedule the on-site visit for you. You want to get these on-site visits done because we can't give final approval till after we've done them. So you want to get that and get on the commission agenda for it sooner than later. You're going to be asked to provide a rationale as before. It doesn't have to be extensive or expansive, just short and to the point. Now, we're also asking for some additional documents under this piece, under the rationale piece. It allows supporting documents. And we're going to ask you to put a couple here. Donna is going to take over again, talk about these requirements. Donna?
Yes, when John went through the full application, these were included. So we will need a document 25.5 for 3 courses within the already approved program that you're now converting to interactive distance learning. And we will also need, if it's a clock hour program, we'll need document 25.6a. That's the chart, the asset chart. You can fill it out in AMS, choose the fillable form, or document 25.6b for credit hour programs. I'd also like to point out that in the rationale, you'll notice for the example, the example shows a percentage of online versus on ground. If you can remember to put the percentage of the online portion of the program, that would be extremely helpful.
Yes, because these program changes don't prompt for that. So that's why we're kind of using this rationale as kind of a catch-all. This would be an example if you forget to put it in. It's not a deal killer. It won't slow you down. We'll probably revert it back to you to fill that in. So use this template as a guide as you're going through so you don't forget this stuff. And I should have added a note there as well. But if you guys mark up your copy, promise me you'll remember. If you're using a program change, make a note to add this ratio right here about how much on ground for hybrid. If it's fully online, you can say it's 100% online. Thanks, Donna. Supporting documentation, same deal. At this point in time, you'll be asked to save and continue. And this is a change in instructional delivery format. That's what this application is being used for. And there's a bunch of this stuff you can skip. We're going to need the state approval, which we talked about earlier. We don't need all this instructional materials. We don't need that, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. We just need your money. See how quick that is? A quick way to your checkbook, 550 bucks, and you're off and running. Again, you'll have to wait for interim approval. We'll get it back to you as soon as we can. Again, you can't do this unless you're already approved for IDL, either because you've been approved before or upon interim approval. Any questions about the program change application? If not, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I just realized I can't see the chat board, so I don't know if there's any questions. Have these been answered yet? Let me take a look. Crystal has a question. Let's take a look.
Crystal's is, if we apply for a new program for our initial IDL to offer our existing on ground as IDL, and after conditional approval, want to apply for that same already approved program to be a bucket of programs via IDL, can we submit a second new program through the iteration, I think. I'm a little unclear about what her question is, but each currently approved program that you wish to offer IDL will require separate approval.
Yeah, vocational programs for sure. If you have avocational programs, we use the term bucket for schools that have large catalog of short programs typically. Again, vocational programs can't do that. But if it's an avocational bucket already, Crystal, then talk to Donna about that, okay? Donna's going to be very, very busy the next month. Take a number, but no, somebody will get back to you and help you. Again, if it's vocational, it's got to be a separate program approval for each one. Either you treat it as a new program if you want both iterations, or as a program change. Either one is fine. They're quick, but I know the bill can run up. So think about that carefully and check with us before making a decision, okay? Good. Let me stop sharing. I'm going to go back to the outline. We're moving along here really well. We're right on time. Plenty of time for questions, by the way, so don't hesitate. Let me find my, there we go. That's the one I wanted, the outline. And we're back to the agenda. We talked about application being reverted already. If we revert it, no big deal. Just fix it and send it on back. We talked about the new program application. We talked about the program change application. And with that, we're going to take more and more questions if you have them. But all of this is being posted or has been posted on Judy's blog. The recording from today's webinar, it can take a couple hours for this to render, but we'll post that link when we can. I believe the handouts may already be posted for today on the blog. Grab them. If you have any difficulty finding them, drop me a note. I will get them to you. As I mentioned in when we began, we have Dr. Leah Matthews, Executive Director from DEAC, being a guest speaker on Friday, May 15th, 2 p.m. We will send out an invitation to the primary contacts for that. We don't have that link yet, but we'll get that out probably next week. Mark your calendar, particularly if you are regulated, which most of you are, going over the state and federal requirements. This is a good time to do it. A lot of those changed. They looked awful under the Obama administration. They've been back and forth under the Trump administration, and it's hard to remember where they are, and some of them are changing again in July, I believe. So Leah's the expert on that, and join us then. If you're not tired yet, you can post some more questions in the chat board. If you have questions that you don't catch today while we're still online, email them to your favorite staff member. And if you're lonely, myself and Rez are good people. We're always happy to have the company. So if in doubt, send it to one of us and we will get it to the right person or answer it ourselves. With that, let's go back to the main room. If you need to leave, feel free to check out. We're just going to grab some residual questions here as we go along. And otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this 9-webinar journey over 6 weeks. We've really enjoyed having you and everybody's participation, whether you've been contributing to the chat or asking questions that other people were afraid to ask. We were happy with all of that. Someone's asking about where to find the videos. You shouldn't have to search YouTube. There's a link, I believe, right in the blog that'll take you right there.
So can I address one more thing or repeat something?
Absolutely.
All right. If you currently do not have approval for IDL, you're going to make your first application and receive interim approval. If you want to turn your other programs into IDL, you have two choices. One, change the current program to IDL, or two, add a second iteration. If you do the latter, that will keep both the on-ground and the IDL version. Did I say that right, John?
Perfect. Better, right. Even better than I said it.
Right.
I'm sending you a double gold star, Donna. Listen to Donna. Donna is our guru. She has years of experience doing this stuff, so please don't hesitate to reach out. She is going to be a very, very busy lady. Christina Rodardi as well. They are our program chairs, but our whole team is going to be pitching in, so don't hesitate to ask. Linda's asking about refund calculations. Let me get to that in a second. Let's see if there's something else that we need to grab before we get that. Linda, don't let me forget. We did get the links for, I forget who, Liz asked for the links. I think we took care of that. Good. Okay. Linda, your question, document 31 rules either way. Last day of attendance, as we talked about last week, is based on the last day of work completed in an online environment. If it's a hybrid course, it could be the latter. The last day they were in class live, or the last day they submitted academic activity, engaged in academic activity online. And that means typically a graded activity or something where the student has had to actively do something, not just watch a video. That doesn't count. Logging in does not count. Think submitting homework, taking a quiz, participating in a discussion forum. Okay, Linda, did that do it? That's for determining the LD. Otherwise, the refund calculation is done the same way. The webinar will be posted on the website, and that recording will be available hopefully later today, if not by Monday. Good question, Val Marie. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Val Marie. You're welcome. Thanks again, everybody. It's been great. Keep the questions coming. We are the best. What can I say? You guys are the best for being patient, for being so patient. We had about 90 people in the webinar again today, so you've all survived the journey. I hope things continue to go well. Hope you get a restful weekend. With that, I'm going to hang online for a couple more minutes for additional questions. Otherwise, I'm going to turn off my video, and you guys can still keep posting questions, okay? Thanks again. Did I miss any questions there, team?
John or Donna, this is Maya. Can
Yeah.
you just clarify again, once an institution gets interim approval, what they're eligible to do at that point?
Donna, you want to grab it?
I'll try. Thank you. Once you get interim approval, you may proceed to changing your other approved programs to IDL, and you can do them. You don't have to do one at a time. You can do them all at one time, but you have to have interim approval in place before you can proceed. And as we said a minute ago, you can choose to change them to IDL or add a second iteration, either one.
You can
And
do
then
them all
they're
together.
allowed,
Separate applications, though, just to
Yes.
clarify.
Yeah.
You can do them, you can pile them in, but they are separate applications.
Separate applications,
Yeah.
correct.
right, and then once they get that interim approval for the first program, they can start advertising, they can start enrolling, they can start teaching?
Jump in.
Absolutely,
Both of you.
yes.
Yep, yep. Jump in the pool. That's the goal.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep, excellent. Thanks, Maya.
I'm reading a question, let's see, from Angie Meyer. John, do you see that one?
Yeah, I do. Trying to think through the consequences of our choices of either a separate program listing or a program change. Really, I think in many, many cases, if you're even thinking about continuing to teach fully on the ground, that program, then I would add it as a new program. It'll save you some trouble later. And you can always inactivate if you decide later not to do it. To drop.
Absolutely, and separate 28.1s will be required.
Yes, yes. So that simplifies it as well, having them listed separately. That will have AMS as part of your annual reporting automatically deploy for you the separate 28.1s. It's very convenient that way. But again, your choice, there's no cost difference. If in doubt, I would add the second program as an iteration. That's what I would do. It's a little shorter, Angie, but yeah, but really you're going to copy and paste from one to the other. The 3-point IDL is the same regardless. So all that work can just be attached again. No big deal. Good. Rabbi Heim, thank you so much for joining us. As they say, it's happy hour somewhere, and that's where I'm thinking next. A virtual happy hour with my siblings tonight. That's our big event, the family event. Hopefully you guys will all do the same. All right, staff, you can go. I'm going to hang here for a couple more minutes with Rez. Rez, don't turn us off quite yet, but everybody else, thank you so much. Thanks again, everybody. Hi, Courtney. That looks cozy. Courtney, where did the mountains go, Courtney? Now you're at the beach. Courtney.
I'm on the beach today. Great. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
All right, see you, Courtney. Bye. Good one.
She's going to have to teach me how to do that.
No, that's fun. That's the virtual background, but
Yeah.
she's got those pictures saved. You got to have them in your library.
Okay.
Okay, the questions seem to be drying up. I think we're set. Everybody, Rez, I think we're good to go. I won't think we'll hurt anybody's feelings if we stop. Oh, it looks like we were still recording. You can stop the recording first, Rez, and then we can go. Does anybody want to grab the text chat? If you want to do that, go ahead and do so. Edward, give us what you can. Good question, Edward. That's a tough one, but give us what you can, and we'll run it by Judy, okay? Thanks. Okay, I'm going to sign off, everybody, so take care. Have a good weekend. Bye.